right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the November 20th, 2024 Zoning Board of Appeals hearing. Before we start the hearing, I'd like to explain the procedures we'll be following. When a case is called, the applicant will present their case to the board. The applications and full staff reports were all posted on the village website at least a week ago and were available for the public to review. The applicant and all speakers in support of or opposition to the application are reminded that the board's decision will be based on the standards set forth in the village code, and all comments should be directed to those standards. After the applicant's presentation is completed, the board may ask questions of the applicant and may ask questions of the applicant or other speakers at any time during the hearing. Comments first in support of and then in opposition to the application will be heard. After all of the testimony has been heard, the applicant will have an opportunity to provide rebuttal testimony. At the conclusion of the applicant's rebuttal, the case will be closed. After closing the hearing for each individual case, the board will deliberate and vote. During this time, no additional testimony may be given by anyone. Please note that if your case is approved today, a written decision will be mailed to you. Before we open the first case, please note that we are all volunteers. I would like each of the board members to confirm their presence for purposes of a roll call and establishing a quorum for this hearing.
Aaron Stuckey, present.
Michael Fortner, present.
Jamie Maywison, present.
Justin Beckman, present.
Phil Sparks, present.
And Mr. Sparks will be a voting member on the board this evening. Our first agenda item is to consider and approve the minutes of the October 23rd, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion
A motion.
and a second?
I will second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And one abstention.
I'm going to call the first case, and then I'll explain what we're going to be doing. So the first case is an area variance. The address is 111 Parse Avenue. The applicant is American Park Place Incorporated. The request is to subdivide 111 Parse Avenue into two parcels where the lot, yard, and bulk requirements are not met. So for this case, the first thing that we're going to do is seeker, as this is an unlisted action, and the lead agency is the Zoning Board of Appeals. So I have provided the Zoning Board of Appeals with a staff report that lays out what is required of the environmental assessment, as well as all the documentation that was submitted. So what we'll do is are there any questions on part one of the short environmental assessment form?
None from me.
So what we're gonna do is go through part two, and if the board could respond to those statements with no or small impact may occur, or moderate to large impact may occur. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
No or small impact.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use of it, or change in the use or intensity of use of land?
I would say no or small impact.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No or small impact.
Agreed.
Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
I would say no or small impact.
Agreed.
I would agree.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No or small
No,
impact.
Agree.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
Say no or small impact.
No, I agree.
Agreed.
Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies or public-private wastewater treatment utilities?
No or small impact.
Agree.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
Say no or small impact.
Agree.
Agreed.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources?
No or small impact.
Agree.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No or small impact.
Agree.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No or small impact.
Agree.
Agreed.
So I now ask the zoning board of appeals to consider that there were four questions that were responded to in the affirmative in the part one for seeker. The first one being 12A. And I'd like you to respond to each one of those. And what I will do is jot your response down as part of part three.
Okay, so for 12A, should I read the item, Jill?
Sure.
Does the project site contain or is it substantially contiguous to a building, archaeological site, or district which is listed on the National or State Register of Historic Places, or that has been determined by the Commissioner of the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation to be eligible for listing on the State Register of Historic Places? The applicant answered yes to that question, and provided the explanation that the cannery site is identified as reconnaissance level survey of historic resources, and attached map and listing from that survey.
And do you feel that will have any sort of impact?
Agreed.
Okay.
Is there any discussion from the board?
Okay, the next question was 13A.
So the question is, does any portion of the site of the proposed action or lands adjoining the proposed action contain wetlands or other water bodies regulated by a federal, state, or local agency? The applicant answered yes. While the Thomas Creek flows through the existing south end of the site, the proposed project is not expected to affect this water body because it's a subdivision internal to the building.
And so no impact?
No impact. The next question is 16.
Yep.
Is the project site located in the 100-year flood plan? The answer to that from the applicant was yes. They attached a map showing that a portion of the site and the existing building are located within the flood hazard area, but those areas are outside of the proposed project, the subdivision action, and therefore would be no impact.
Agree.
Okay, and the next question is 20.
Question 20 is, has the site of the proposed action or an adjoining property been the subject of remediation ongoing or completed for hazardous waste? The applicant's response is yes, and indicated that the site has 4 underground tanks that have been designated for no action. And therefore, we'd indicate no impact.
Okay. And then I ask you to actually vote on this for me. The zoning board has determined, based on the information and analysis above and any supporting documentation, that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts.
So moved. Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Okay, so we have a negative declaration for seeker. And Jamie, I'll just have you sign that. Okay, so just so those at home and those in the audience I'll just read the case again so that everyone's up to speed. The case type is an area variance. The address is 111 Parks Avenue. The applicant is American Park Place. And the request is to subdivide 111 Parks Avenue into 2 parcels where the lot, yard, and bulk requirements are not met. So if you could come up and tell us about the project.
Sure. Good evening.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Link Sweetrock with BME Associates. Also with me tonight is Andy Hart from Colliers and Doug Calabrese, who's the owner of 111 Parse Avenue. So we are looking to subdivide, basically we're looking to subdivide Iron Smoke out of this existing building. We've been working on it for a while. They're looking to purchase that piece of the building, which required a subdivision, which we went in front of the planning board on December 4th, November 4th, and got approval from them, conditioned on the variances that we need from the zoning board for setbacks for the lots, basically to subdivide this building out of an existing building and not propose any changes. We're creating some hardships with setbacks, side setback, zero side setbacks, front setback, rear setback on these lots. That is basically, existing non-conforming as you subdivide these off. So BR2, we're looking for, and also building coverage, we're looking for a variance for, I'm good. I think I got it. BR2, we're looking for the building coverage, which is 30% required, 59% proposed. The front setback at 30-foot required, which is off of Parse Avenue, and 2.7 feet. That building. The building's there. It's right on the road. Side setback 15 foot's required. We're putting a subdivision down the middle of the building wall, so it's a 0-foot request. And then AR2, which is the rest of the building that will be sort of left over to the west. Building coverage requires 30%, 62.3% building coverage is what's there, remains. Front setback, 30-foot required off of Parse. The building's on Parse, it's a 0-foot setback. Side setback, same thing, 15-foot required. We're subdividing in the middle of the building, so it's a 0-foot proposed. And then the rear setback, which is all the way sort of over to the west in the back corner of the building, gets now is about 13.9 feet from that southwest corner. So those are the variances. Like I said, I think we provided written responses to the criteria for the self-creation of it. And I don't think we need to go through those specifically unless you have questions, but I think, this is mainly being proposed as a subdivision, and these are sort of the things that are being created by subdividing this parcel off. So I think with that, I got lots of good people here to help answer any questions we got, and we'll look to help answer any questions. And Jill did a great job of putting all this report together for you. So I think you got a lot. We should be able to answer any questions you got. So
I think I understand this. Just to confirm for the record, though, no changes to the external footprint of the building are being proposed at this time.
none.
Okay. Are there any board questions? I attended the planning board meeting, and I've looked at this a couple of times, so.
You've seen.
Usually I have
all
lots
the-
of questions, but you
Well, that's
have done
good.
a great job explaining the project, and I've heard it a couple of times, so it's not for my lack of awareness of what's going on that I don't have questions.
We've been working on it for a while too, trying to make sure we had all the answers to all the questions before we came here, so.
Perfect. I think the board is good for right now.
Yeah, I will ask for anyone in support of the application to speak. They can come forward. Anyone in opposition to the application? You can close the case if you'd like, or do you have additional
Any
questions?
other burning questions?
No.
Okay, we'll close this portion of the public hearing, this public portion of the hearing for this case, and deliberate on the standards. Thank you very much. You can have a seat.
All right, so let's start with the first standard.
All right, so the first standard is, will an undesirable change be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties should the requested area variance be granted? We're defining the neighborhood as the cannery.
Let's actually define it, if I might jump in, as maybe Parse Avenue and a portion, and maybe the intersection of Parse and North Main versus referring to a commercial
actual building?
site. Yeah.
So the south side of Parse,
Even though everybody calls it the cannery.
right? and North Main,
Um,
for the benefit of the record.
A procedural question,
Yep.
if I may. Are we considering these, there are multiple variances at play here. Are we considering them collectively?
We are.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm not gonna have you vote on the individual variances. We're gonna look at them collectively, unless there is a variance that you feel that cannot be granted. So let's go through the standards. If at any point the board says, I'm not comfortable with a particular variance request, then we can pull that one out and vote on that separately.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks for that clarification. Is there a discussion about the first standard on undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties?
We're not really changing anything.
I would agree with that. The external footprint's not changing.
There may be some intensification of use, but in the context, I don't see it as significant.
Okay. Are we ready to move on to the second standard? Okay,
I'm writing slow today.
it's okay.
Okay.
All right, the second standard is, can the benefit sought be achieved in some feasible manner other than an area variance? I think the answer to this question is no, predicated on the need for the subdivision to be able to sell a portion of the property, and therefore that triggers the need to come to the zoning board to memorialize the variances for the existing nonconformances.
Yeah. That presupposes that sale is the only way forward here. Is it?
So I guess I encourage the zoning board to, when thinking about this standard, the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved in some feasible manner other than an area variance. They don't have to subdivide it, but they've chosen to. And as noted earlier, there is not a change to the footprint. And as Jamie mentioned, in many respects, you're memorializing what is there. So
So that gets essentially subsumed within a later standard of the self-created hardship.
yeah,
And so this point might be better addressed when we reach that rather than deciding it here.
Possibly. I think you can still respond to this statement because it is a little bit of the combination of the self-created hardship and the statement. So do you want to expand at all on what has already been said?
No, I see no reason to do so.
Okay.
Okay. So the third standard is, will the proposed area variance have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district? Again, possibly some, as Phil mentioned earlier, potentially intensification of use depending on what happens with the subdivided area, but as far as the subdivision itself that we're considering,
Well, and just focus on those variances. So is the granting of the variances that have been requested, will they have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district?
so to that I would say no, because it's what is existing.
Well, the subdivision itself requires some structural changes to the physical plant.
And they will be an internal changes that a building permit is required for. So none of the changes that will occur within the building, and it's all internal. So there aren't, those changes that required will not be visible to the community.
Fair enough.
The fourth standard is the requested area variance substantial? Definitely. But again, somewhat mitigated by the fact that it's already in existence.
And the public isn't gonna notice a thing.
Right. It's not gonna change the external condition. of the building, the immediate surrounding area. Any other discussion on that
No,
standard? Okay, and standard 5 is, has the alleged difficulty been self-created? Yes, by the nature of
Yeah.
proposing the
And the
subdivision.
application admits as much, so.
Yes. But again, somewhat mitigated by the fact that the degree of nonconformity is existing and not increasing. Is there any other discussion on that standard or any of the prior ones? Okay, do I have a motion to vote on this case as submitted?
So moved. I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to case 2. So case 2, the case type is an area variance. The address is 18 Hulbert Avenue. The applicant is Loyal 9 Development. The request is to construct a detached accessory structure not meeting the height requirement. And you can come on up and tell us about your project. Oh, I'm sorry, yep.
I want to go on the record saying that I have a relationship with this family and I can remain impartial.
Good evening. I'm Vaughn Calvo from Loyal 9 Development, and tonight I have Kim Thompson of 18 Hulbert with me. All right, so the current project is that we are going to be demoing an existing garage that is on the property, and we are going to be replacing it with a
Sorry, that was distracting.
replacing it with a new 24 by 30 garage. The garage will be a 10-foot first floor ceiling height and have I believe it was a 7'8" attic space, which would create a proposed elevation height of 16 feet, which is 1 foot over the over allowed by code. That's about it. It's a pretty easy, straightforward project.
How did you arrive at your decision for the dimensions of the two spaces?
So, due to her husband having a career in automotive, he wants to continue that as a hobby in his retirement. So he would like to have some sort of ability to have a workspace within his garage for his automotive hobbies. Hence why the 10-foot on the first floor, and because they're, getting up in age, they would like to have a full height storage area above the garage so they don't have to stoop down, in the loft area.
So the second floor of the structure will be storage only?
Correct.
Okay.
Any plans for putting plumbing in the garage for any reason?
There's going to be a hydronic heating system and I believe a utility sink? A utility sink and a floor drain, which will all return and come from the existing plumbing within the house.
Is an automotive, your partner, husband is an automotive hobbyist?
So he's currently an auto mechanic, but he'll be retiring in a year, and he just wants a space to build a 1957 Chevy hardtop.
All
So,
right.
that's his dream car, and that's what we'll, hopefully, we've got one kid exiting college in this month, or next month, and that's where that money's gonna go, and that's gonna be his project. So he wanted to have a space that he could, he's been an auto mechanic for over 40 years, so you can imagine what he's collected. He's not willing to get rid of anything, so it has to come home, and he wants to be able to just have a place to do that hobby. So, yeah, that's.
Now I understand.
That's the plan, and hopefully it happens, and then one day
See.
you get to see it on the road.
I will look forward to that.
So, yeah.
Are there any other questions from the board? Okay. You can have a seat. I'm going to ask, or Jill can ask, just for the record.
Just for the record, anyone in support of the application? Anyone in opposition to the application? Does the board have any additional questions for the applicants?
I do not.
None from me.
Nope, no questions.
All right,
Okay.
then let's jump right to the standards.
All right. So our first question is, will an undesirable change be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties should the requested area variance be granted? For this case, I would define the neighborhood as Hulbert Avenue from West Church Street, at least to James. Does the board,
I would have cut it off at Erie, actually.
at Erie Way?
Yeah.
Okay, so
And
Hulbert
I-
Avenue.
And I would include the eastern side of Fiora Drive as well, because all of those properties back up against one another.
Okay, I'm in agreement with that. Okay, so is there discussion about standard one?
I think, as I look at the map, approximately half of the houses on Hulbert, as we've defined the neighborhood, have a structure of this kind detached from the single family. And given the age and architecture of that neighborhood, a building like this would not be inconsistent with the nature of the neighborhood.
I agree with that.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so standard two.
Thank you.
Can the benefit sought be achieved in some feasible manner other than the area variance?
No. I don't think so.
I think one of the only ways you'd be able to do it and get the space to build to work on a car and to have the storage you'd want would actually then entail having a much larger structure spread out across a larger area rather than being, to avoid being 2 stories or over 16 feet tall at the roof line.
Yeah, the purpose of my earlier question was to determine whether a smaller structure is warranted in this particular instance. I don't think the answer to that is it is, so I'm comfortable with this.
Okay. All right. Standard three, will the proposed area variance have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district? I would say no. It's replacing a existing garage to be in an improved condition, and based on the drawings and the fact that it will go through the building permit and inspection process to ensure that it's constructed to code. I don't see there being any adverse impacts.
Yeah, I think it's definitely gonna be an improvement.
Yeah,
And
a big
I would agree, particularly from having looked from Fiora Drive back at this. It seems the newer structure will be beneficial rather than an adverse effect.
And even with the plumbing in there and having a floor drain or anything of that nature, with the car work being done, you know, following the proper code details about how to handle drains where there's a chance of having automotive fluids, trying to think how to describe oils, transmission fluids, things like that.
Hazardous materials
Making
that
it into the
waste.
water waste,
Sure.
it's useful to have that updated.
I agree. All right, Standard 4, is the requested area variance substantial? I would say no.
I would say no.
It's a foot over the,
No one's gonna notice.
And given the fact that there is an adjoining garage on the adjacent property of similar height and bulk, I think that it's quite all right.
I would agree.
same. All right. And the final standard is, has the alleged difficulty been self-created? Yes, in terms of the design of the building, the applicant has acknowledged such in their application, but as we previously discussed, it's mitigated by allowing the applicant to accomplish their intended objectives for the new structure, I think.
I agree.
I
Okay.
concur.
All right. Is there any other discussion on the standards? Anything we missed?
No.
Okay. Do I have a motion to consider this case as submitted?
I'll make a motion to consider the case as submitted.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, it's approved. Thank you.
Good luck. That'll be great. You're gonna love it. I love my carriage house. I put too much
Ditto.
stuff in there, though. So,
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Before
So
we
moved.
adjourn, I just want to announce for those people that might be viewing this before December 5th, the Historic Preservation Commission is having a special presentation by Bill Perret at 6 p.m. right here on December 5th. There will be light refreshments, so I encourage everyone to attend.
All right.
all right.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
A second? All in favor?